Welcome back to another battle report from the Brotherhood of Broken Banners. Yours truly will be playing Baratheons against Rich's infamous Greyjoys.
My commander is Eldon Estermont in Stag Knights. They're a 7-point unit. They have resilience and they have increasing stats throughout the game. Eldon Estermont gives them access to Hardened and Mark Target. I'm also running High Guard and Pikemen with Brienne, Captain of the Rainbow Guard. She brings Battle Scars for 1 point. High Guard and Pikemen are 5 points, and they have Coordinated Assault, which allows them to deal 1 extra hit for each remaining rank when they declare and land a charge. And they have Perseverance and Valor to heal them 1 every time they make a melee attack. I have Champions of the Stag. They're an 8-point cavalry unit. Their claim to fame is that they have 2-up armor saves. Whenever they charge a unit, they weaken them. Whenever they make an attack against a unit that they were already engaged against, they make them vulnerable. They natively have crit blow. And then I'm playing the newly released unit, Baratheon Halberds. They're 6 points. They hit on 4s, throwing 7, 7, 4 with their dice decay, and they have Taunt and Sunder. For NCUs, I'm bringing Olenna Tyrell, who has the ability to shut down enemy NCUs or punish them for claiming board. Courtney Penrose, who can also punish an enemy for claiming tactics board on the zone using order tokens to heal his units. And Marjorie Tyrell, who whenever she claims a zone, heals 1 to that unit and 1 enemy engaged unit becomes vulnerable.
Hi, I'm Rich. Today I'm going to be running Commander Theon in Silenceman. Commander Theon brings enhanced mobility, so these Silencemen are moving at 7 inches and they can pivot before marching. They bring ambush, so if I'm hitting people in the flank, they get panicked and weakened. And most importantly to this list, he brings Sentinel. So if any other unit in long range is charged or attacked, he can respond by making a maneuver or charging the attacking unit if able. Silencemen, of course, bring their double sundering, their fear aura when they get their pillage tokens, and also Dauntless. And all that is a 7-point package. Next, for a 5-point package, I'm bringing the 4-point Ironborn Arrows with Euron Greyjoy, pretty common combo. Euron brings in 2 pillage tokens that can be shared with the rest of the army at the cost of him hurting the unit anytime they perform an action. Euron also has poison gifts, so he can hurt the unit a little more to put out the token at long range. And the archer unit has Ironborn Arrows, so they get rerolls in the flanks and rear. And they have Divide and Spoils, so as mentioned, they can share pillage at short range. Next, another big part of this list, going on with the Sentinel theme, I have 5-point Reavers with 2-point Asha, that's the second Asha. This Asha brings Sentinel and Gang Up, so Sentinel, same as Theon, Gang Up, +1 attack die, +1 to hit when engaging a unit that's already engaged. Reavers, they have Sundering, Furious Charge, and when they have their full pillage, they always have rerolls. So a nice 7-point package. And yet another unit with Sentinel. And no surprise, another unit with Sentinel. These are Golden Company crossbows with Baelor Blacktide at 8 points. Golden Company crossbows have Sentinel, typical crossbow rules, so Sundering and rerolls at short range. Baelor Blacktide gives Unyielding, so we can get that extra dice at max rank. He brings Boldness and Courage to get that extra dice, and he brings Unyielding, which gives us -1 to wound for each rank we're missing. For NCUs, we just get out with the one that's not a big surprise. Balon Greyjoy, he's at 5 points, and when a unit dies, he can, during his activation, bring back a unit that died, and he can bring it in using the outflank rules. Next we have Makoro at 4 points. Once per game, he can turn off tactics cards and abilities for a turn. And also he can clone a dead attachment at the cost of replacing an NCU zone. And then finally, 4-point Roderick the Reader, who comes in with 2 order tokens and the ability to let me mill through my deck and get new cards and pitch my hand and get a new hand.
Rich is playing an extremely aggressive list with a lot of sundering, so I'm going to put down a low wall to try and blunt some of his charges. His two terrain choices are both going to be weirwood trees skewing the battlefield to try and deter me from choosing turn order so he can maintain a strong tempo. I'm going to put a hedge on that skewed side of the battlefield to try and slow him down because I'm worried about his extreme maneuverability, especially off of 3 sentinel units and Theon. Rich wins the coin toss, taking the skewed side and making me deploy first. I put my cavalry down since they'll be the easiest to reposition, and he does the same with Theon. I put my commander as far away from Theon as possible with the low wall to protect his flank because I know Theon can get there pretty easy. Bowmen go next to Theon, that way he's got divide the spoils ready to pillage them up. Halberds protect my Stag Knight's flank. Golden Company are going to go next to the bowmen to capitalize with their sentinel when they inevitably get attacked. Pikemen are going to go between my 2 anvils to give myself some threat. Asha's not going to be able to fit between Theon and bows, which is going to hurt Rich later on in the game, so he just puts them across from Stag Knights. Rich goes first, and Roderick's going to take the horses to move Theon to try and give him that advanced positioning that he wants. Then Olenna takes letters and uses her second part of her ability on Makoro. Then Balon's going to take bags, and I'm going to pass with Courtney to maintain my activation tempo. Rich is going to move up crossbows, so to stop him from getting a free shot, I'm going to take swords with Marjorie doing nothing. He's going to pass with Makoro himself because he doesn't want to take the hits and weaken token. During those lightning turns, I get both my Oaths of Duty out, and I move up my Stag Knights. Rich is going to do some Greyjoy bullshit and play Raiding Call to move 1 token off of Euron and onto Asha's Reavers, and then generate 1 because somebody has the bags. Rich is an extremely aggressive player, so he does that pretty often to try and get those Reavers online as quickly as possible, which he's then going to move up to threaten my Stag Knights. At 2 pillage tokens, those Reavers are going to be throwing 8 dice on 3s with rerolls all the time, and if he can get another unit in there to trigger gang up, it'll be 9 dice on 2s with rerolls. On my turn, I'm going to use Eldon's Mark Target to put a vulnerable token onto Asha to set up for a final strike that I'm really hoping I draw into, and then move up the halberds to try and threaten the crossbows and protect my flank. Golden Company crossbows might have a crappy melee profile, but with Sentinel they can get a free charge off if I charge into Asha, which would trigger gang up for when they go. Rich moves up Euron, taking a wound for the trouble, and Pikes move up to threaten both of those ranged units. This battle line might look good because I've got Pike staring at 2 ranged units, but with Sentinel on either side, I probably won't survive charging them. I'll take 1 hit on the Sentinel, and then I'll die on their activation, because Greyjoy units hit hard. Rich is going to play Finger Dance to that effect, and then move up Theon. Theon's going to use enhanced maneuverability to get into striking range of my Pikes. He's going first the next round, so I'm really worried, and he's not even in charge distance of my poor, slow, fat champions, the Stag. So I'm just going to have to figure out what's the best place to put them. Should I try and guard their flank to stop them from getting charged, or should I just have them prepared to charge the Silencemen in the rear and avenge the Pikes that probably won't survive more than 2 attacks? Ultimately, I decided to move the champions of the stack to block the flank of the Pikes, and hope that he's not going to get another pillage token onto the Soundsmen already. He's fully pillaged up the Reavers, and the Soundsmen have 1 already. If they can get another one, and he could put out a vulnerable token, my champions of the stag are going to melt fast. I have to move the champs up, though, because a flank attack into the Pikes will melt them even faster between Theon's ambush and just the sheer amount of damage those guys are going to put out on my poor, poor little pikey boys. I don't really have a strong turn 1 play next round, so my plan is just survive and hope I draw into Final Strike. I really don't have much in way of early power. Most of my strength comes on around round 3, round 4, when battle endurance will start kicking in and Stag Knights start accumulating keywords. Rich, on the other hand, is going all out. He's already used 1 of his cards to generate an extra pillage token, and with Euron there, he's got 1 unit fully pillaged up, and Silencemen are halfway there. 1 more and they'll get double sundering and their infamy aura, which is pretty terrifying for both the units and the player. With that said, round 2 starts with Olenna taking the swords. Nothing's going to happen, we're going to keep the low wall it is, not going to attack it, but we are going to shut off Roderick's abilities for the round. Roderick will then take letters as Rich continues to dig for his big beefy cards. Courtney's going to take horses and put the Stag Knights onto the objective. That way, in case things get hairy, I can retreat rather than having to attack with the Stags. It's always important to note that attacking doesn't win games. Victory points win games. So if you can retreat while you have the objective and stop taking attacks, you are more likely to win than you were just sinking attacks into a unit and accomplishing nothing. Leaving 2 spots on the NCU board open, Soundsmen are going to charge in on the Champions of the Stag, so I know he's got We Do Not Sow in those grubby hands of his. He's going to play Opportunist on the attack to give himself Vicious and Precision. He's going to take 5 wounds off, almost getting that Pillage token, but then I'm going to marge onto Bags to heal back 4. Rich, not wanting to get bogged down, puts Makoro onto Crowns and plays the We Do Not Sow, using the Iron Price to give him rerolls, because he really wants to punch a rank through my Stags. Without precision or vulnerable to really punch through the armor, and no longer having Vicious, he's not going to do much, and he's only going to accomplish a few wounds, leaving me still pretty healthy. Getting excited, I make a pretty significant tempo misplay, and I'm going to charge the pikes on into the Silenced Men. The Golden Company crossbowmen are going to use their sentinel to move up and get a flanking position onto my pikemen and shoot them before the halberds get a chance to lock them up. I taunt the crossbows before they shoot into my flank, but 7 dice on 3s with rerolls before the weaken token, they're still going to do a ton of damage and they're going to take 7 wounds off my pikes. Hoping to drop Soundsmen down to their last rank to maybe save my pikes in the near future, I attack with Champions of the Stag, but I don't do nearly enough damage. After that, Diversion Tactics is going to get played to move the crossbows into a bit of a safer place before Euron shoots into my pikes. He's going to suffer an additional wound to try and put a vulnerable token out onto my pikes to ensure the kill, but I got Stag's Wit in hand, so I'm going to put that back onto the Silenced Men, and they're going to remove the panic token that was mistakenly placed on them. Turns out he doesn't need the vulnerable token because I fail all of my armor saves, barely passing the panic test, so Brienna's going to stick around there. She's got battle scars though, so if by some miracle I can keep her alive until she can make another attack, it's going to be devastating. In the meantime, Stag Knights are going to go in on Asha, since the crossbows don't have Sentinel anymore, so I'm not worried about the sudden gang up. Stags land a handful of hits, but Asha makes a pretty remarkable save and only takes a rank, so she's going to swing back with 7 dice on 3s with rerolls. I'm going to use Resilience and still fail the panic test and every single armor save, taking a rank and dropping the objective. I finally catch a bit of a break because my halberds land all 7 hits despite running over a wall, and the crossbows fail all 7 despite saving on their natural 5. All in all, it was a really bad round for me. When you go against Greyjoy, you need to do about a 2-to-1 wound average, because they're not supposed to make any saves. They're all designed around their healing and sheer offensive capability, whereas Baratheons are designed to not take the damage in the first place. He still has Balon up too, so he can completely redeploy a unit if something goes down, except for the Golden Company crossbows, so that might end up being my focus in the next round. Neither of us score any points off the objective, so it's looking like first couple kills are going to be a very heavy deciding factor this game. I'm pretty confident I know what he's going to do, so as soon as he activates his NCU, I'm going to target the swords and the bags with it, so I'll heal first, which I end up doing to heal up 4. He plays Opportunist to give himself Precision, Vicious, and rerolls, but I get pretty lucky on this one, and I'm only going to take 4 wounds, the exact amount that Courtney had healed me, so Brienne essentially survives this buffed up attack for free. He gets a pillage token, but that's okay, because Brienne's got battle scars, so when I make their activation and attack, they're going to be throwing 7 dice with rerolls and vicious, which is actually going to kill them. However, he's got What Is Dead in hand, so he stays alive with just 1 wound, and I know Brienne's a goner now. And to add salt to that wound, he's going to play Blessed with Stone, Blessed with Steel, which is going to allow him to heal 2 for each of my missing ranks, plus 1 because he controls the swords, essentially undoing that entire attack. The only advantage I really get out of that is it requires him to activate Theon to do it. So he's going to kill Brienne here, but a bunch of things are going to set in motion. The first is I'm going to be able to place a corpse pile down after this, which is going to have an objective token, so I might be able to start repositioning my forces to start scoring off of Brienne's death. I'm also going to play Hefty Ransom, which is just going to allow me to score an extra victory point if I manage to kill Theon's unit. I'm also going to play Baratheon Justice to put out a weakened token to try and keep my Champions of the Stag up at 2 ranks. I'm going to put down the corpse pile nearby, that way if I do manage to kill them, after I slide reposition on the attack, I can surge forth and claim it. Euron, though, is going to start moving up to take it, which is going to force me to respond. I'm going to activate the halberds to reposition them to block Euron from getting onto the corpse pile, and on the melee attack, I'm also going to play Ours is the Fury. Comboed with the condition token I get from the triggered Oath of Duty, I'm going to put some pretty serious damage into the Golden Company crossbows, but honestly, I'm just trying to stop Euron from getting in my rear. He's then going to activate Balon and put him onto the bags to heal up Asha's unit by 3 and remove that weakened token that I was hoping to use to set up a pretty spicy martial superiority comeback with the Stag Knights. After that, I'm going to use Marjorie onto Crowns to heal up the champions of the Stag 1, and I'm going to ping Euron for 1. Asha's then going to make an attack, sacrificing a couple of those wounds she just restored for Finger Dance to put out a vulnerable token and a panic token. But I'm going to Stags with back the panic token, and I'm going to use martial superiority to try and deflect some of those blows and back onto Asha. We both take a considerable amount of damage, and I managed to get some panic tokens out to set up for my next attack. Resilience is thankfully going to blunt a lot of it and stop me from dropping down for my second rank. After that, I'm going to swing right back on into Asha, and I'm going to put that weakened token back out to try and keep my Stag Knights alive, just in case another cheeky attack comes on out. I do a lot of damage on this one and burn the second what is dead. Baelor's then going to retreat, and since he's got boldness and courage, even though he's just got 1 rank, he's still a very considerable threat, especially in a flank, so he's just going to pull them back a little bit further so he can threaten the flanks of my Stag Knights. My Halberds have already activated, so they're stuck, but I will activate the Champions of the Stag and play my other Ars of the Fury to buff them up. They're going to take Vicious on this, so I'm hoping I can kill the Soundsmen, and I get lucky and I manage to take them out. It was my best case scenario, so I cash in the hefty ransom for a bonus point, and then I get to move on over to that objective. That was a big swing in my favor, because I went from a point down to a point up. We both put down corpse piles, and he's going to be able to sentinel move on to it. So we're both scoring on 1, but my Stag Knights have reclaimed their objective, so I'm going to be going up 1 more as well. So the score at the end of this round is going to be 4-2. And even though he has Balon redeploy ready to go, I go first this next round, so Elena can shut him down, delaying the Balon redeployment by an entire round, which might be enough for me to put the game into a state where I can't lose. It's looking like it might be over for Rich. One big weakness the Greyjoy deck has is, despite all of its healing, it's all based on activations and friendly turns. Since I'm going first, I'm going to be able to take the swords and kill Asha, and there's really nothing he can do about it. Rich not drawing into that We Do Not Sow, so he was forced to deal with the Courtney heal, and the Courtney heal just being enough to save Brienne and allowing her an extra attack and burn that what is dead is the only reason I was able to pull off this swing. I start off the next round with a sustained assault using Elena on swords to shut off Balon, because I'm not taking any chances with this. I use my Surge Forth to just get a little bit more comfortable on the point and threaten a little bit more of them. And I put Battle Endurance out on the Halberds to make them a very serious combat threat. Rich is going to use his other diversion tactics to move the bows away. At this point, his only chance is to stall. He's going to try and move his 2 ranged units away, far enough that he can still pepper shots on me and use the shifts to stay out of range, while still surviving and scoring up points. The lead isn't that huge. It's 2-5, and if he can redeploy those silenced men in my rear, especially since they have Sentinel and Enhanced Maneuverability and Ambush, this game could still swing if he manages to survive the round. But that's a big if at this point. I'm going to put Marjorie onto the horses, healing the Stag Knights up 1, just in case that Theon does manage to come around next round. And I'm going to move the Stags a little bit further towards the 2 ranged units. I'm not sure which one I want to go after at this point. I'm leaning towards the bows, because I think the Halberds will be able to get there. He ends up healing Euron with the bags, which puts them out of kill range for the Champions of the Stag, so I decide to go for the risky charge against the Golden Company bows, figuring 2 charges are better than 1. I get really lucky and land a 6 on the charge though, and I don't even need to worry about the Halberds. So the Halberds will be able to spin around, grab the objective, and the Champions of the Stag will be able to score the 1 that I got off killing the Golden Company. So I'll be scoring 3 this round on top of the 2 that I had scored, and at that point, Rich and I just call it. It was a pretty nerve-wracking game in the early phases, especially because I was playing a very late-game oriented list between the Stag Knights and Battle Endurance, and early game against Greyjoy is also terrifying because they just have so many attacks, so much healing, and so much offensive capability. I managed to weather the storm and got pretty lucky with Brienne to make up for all the terrible rolls she made against the archers. And in the end, I was able to pull through, burning through all the resources until the Greyjoys were little more than free folk that know how to swim. I fought the Triple Sentinel list many times, and I think I did a pretty good job of cutting it down, but a huge part of my ability to succeed came down to Rich's deployment mistake and not being able to set up the web of sentinels well enough. It was a really fun game though, and I always enjoy playing against Rich. This concludes another Broken Banners Battle Report, and I hope you tune in next week for another.
Other than bags.
Of course, yes, you played the zone, you deserve 6 points of healing with the card.
I do. Yeah.